Okay, so welcome. Um, yeah, nice to see the names, and we'll sit. Just finding a posture in which you can be receptive to the Dharma, receive your own wisdom. Ajahn Sajita said something like, "What we don't listen to, we become. What's not received in awareness, we become identified with. What's pushed to the side, disavowed, we in our resistance, we paradoxically become it." And so just as we begin, we just listen deeply so that we don't become our resistance. We don't become identified with it. It's received. the awareness keeps backing up, keeps noticing the tension that creeps in around the project of meditation, the project of me. Notices the subtle transactional mode, making something happen, the subtle demands we issue to the moment. We notice all of this. Bit by bit, some of the static melts away. We come into the spaciousness that involves frictionlessness. Unless we notice what we want, the kind of background agendas of wanting, uh, our knowing is suffused with the wanting. And so we notice some of these agendas, this tightness, this tension, this transaction, this bargaining we do with the moment, the way we leverage the present for some future. We notice all of this, and in this way, the knowing becomes less entangled with those agendas. The knowing of the breathing, body, sound, feeling. And faith in awareness is a kind of confidence that after all my doing, all my effort, all my strategies, after all of that dissolves, we can trust what's left. We can trust the awareness that doesn't depend on me. The less we grasp, the more self-evident the Dharma becomes. Michelle McDonald asked the question: is the agenda to connect or to control? Maybe one aspect of faith in Dharma is that okay to let go of control. Something will hold us even on the other side of our control. to clearly know clinging, control, is to want to release it. Okay, that's good to sit with you. Yeah, I hope YouTube is okay. It started. There's a default that's set it as a private video and had to stop the feed. This was before we began, but it may have been the explanation for a couple people having issues. Sorry about that. Okay, so uh, faith. Um, there was there was a period in yeah, last couple decades when the sort of like the educational system was aggressively supporting the development of self-esteem, and is very understandable in a lot of ways. Like if you have a more positive view of the self, it'll support academic and social development. But as it turned out, it didn't really work out that way. And the improvements in self-esteem, when they could be made, it's not so easy to make, but when they could be made, didn't translate to that much. And to really make changes, the kind of the deep models of self, they've been reiterated so compulsively that it's like a song we've been humming, to ourselves for many years, nonstop. And so it takes something of kind of industrial strength to actually change that at a deep level. And so this week we've been exploring faith, and what does it mean to have faith in oneself, faith in oneself. Does it mean that we have a kind of rigid model of what we are, and that model's positively valenced? I don't think so. It's more like when you know what you're not, is it possible to have faith in oneself? When you know what you're not, then we can actually have faith in ourselves. When you are no longer kind of taking refuge in the stories of self, you can have faith in yourself. Because the story, all the elaborate I making, my making, the egoic story is a kind of static, really, that actually muddles our knowing, muddles our sensitivity to this moment. It like the congealing of the sense of self actually is a kind of static, and it serves to buffer our connection from what's here. And so faith in oneself is not a kind of inflated story about the self. It's not grandiose stories. It's not that. Um, I don't know why this came to mind, but I am not I'm not a musical person. I have a terrible ear. I can't read music. I don't play any instruments. I took piano lessons when I was a kid, and I, it's kind of harsh to say it about a child, but I was bad. I know effectively nothing, you know. But sometimes when I go to the symphony and I see whatever, Dudamel or Esa-Pekka Salonen, sometimes I feel like maybe I could be the conductor. Just maybe. And I got my kind of like in my head, I have my hand position, Shouldn't I just have faith in myself? No. Anatta, anatta, not self, is the truest form of self-esteem. The the impersonality of one's strengths and weaknesses. And so this insight is the end of trying to prove oneself. It's the kind of dissolving of arrogance and shame, which is the underbelly of self. And then we start to develop a different kind of confidence, a different kind of faith in ourselves. We're very grounded in where we are. We come to trust our view. We come to trust our body, trust our mind, not the kind of story of self. We relax into anatta. And there's a lot of trust that emerges from that insight, a lot of trust that emerges from an insight. At times, maybe the default is there's a certain kind of deep wobble in the self, and we don't trust our view, we don't trust our knowing, we defer to others to understand what's real. We defer to others. We sort of like checking, looking to this person, that person to gauge what should I think. There's a subtle way we just keep pinging to others or the prevailing winds to see what we ought to do. And faith in oneself, as we become faithful in ourselves, this changes. We start to have this much deeper trust in our intuitive knowing. And maybe it's something like intuition, intuition, some intuitive knowing. And in intuitive knowing, there's very little doubt and there's very little self-justification. It's very clean, very simple kind of knowing. We know those times where it's like, should I, is it this? Is it that? Is it like a lot of doubt, a lot of wobble, a lot of uncertainty? Or the other side where it's like we pick some view or something and then we spend a lot of time justifying it to ourselves. Yeah, 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 yeah. Kind of rationalizing it, making the case. This kind of intuitive knowing is much simpler, much simpler. And it often for me is just like yes or no. This can work, it's wholesome. No, this is not going to work out. You know, and we just become more and more attuned to that. And we become more and more sensitive to the kind of mechanisms of self-deception, the trail of self-deception. We can of course always still pull a fast one on ourselves, you know, but much less and less costly. We've become so sensitive to like how we've deceived ourselves in the past that it's harder to be taken in by the kind of mechanisms of rationalization, self-justification. We're clearing out some static. We're listening more deeply. As we listen more deeply, we become better. We refine our philosophy of happiness, of what it is to be happy, what it is to have a good life. We become better at predicting what will make us happy, what will make others happy. It's very important in this kind of path of intuitive knowing. Actually, we say be present, be present. Yeah, but it's actually also about making better predictions about what completes the heart and what doesn't. And so, okay, given the totality of conditions, given my strengths and limitations, what can work? What can work? And this is a kind of incredible intimacy with oneself, of really kind of receiving the totality of data from our own system, of listening more and more subtly, taking more and more kind of subtle cues. And for me, it's a lot in the kind of like subtle affective, feeling cues. Yeah, mm, you know, how is this going to be? How is that going to be? And I sort of like listen in, and maybe very quick process, but there's like, yeah, I actually can feel something relaxes, opens, or maybe something gets tense, and that's good data. We have to learn that's good data. Faith in ourself is is not discounting that knowing. It's learning to distinguish between the commands of our defilements and the kind of clarity of our knowing. And so we cut through more and more of the static that is the story of self. And then we begin to actually establish some faith in ourselves, faith in our view, in our view. And as Philip Moffat says, we become accountable to what we know. We come into uh, deeper alignment with what we know. And so, what do you already know? What do you already know? The knowing that's free from doubt and self-justification. Can we stay true to that? This, to my mind, is how we nurture faith in ourselves. Okay, so I offer this for your consideration, and as always, please pick up whatever is useful and leave everything else behind. Okay, so, till tomorrow. Wish you all well. Thank you.